On Tuesday, 17th of June 2025, Zambia as a nation woke up to a screaming news headline in the Daily Nation newspaper, which read, and I quote, UNHRC finds Zambia guilty of human rights violation, says authorities are using false charges, criminal libel, sedition, cybercrime offenses against journalists. Opposition figures describe the violations as a dangerous trend eroding the independence of the justice system. Now, this was not only covered by Daily Nation, it was also covered by KBN TV and read as follows. Zambia found guilty of human rights abuses. This is according to UN Special Rapporteur report. The Upnd government is abusing human rights, implementing selective justice, and effecting targeted persecution against its opponents and critics. But it is not only Zambian media that covered this story. It was also covered by international media, and we look at NRTV from Zimbabwe, who also covered this story. Listen to this.
We shift focus now to Zambia, where the United Nations has raised alarm over the shrinking democratic space in the southern African country. This follows an increase in arbitrary arrests and detention of opposition political party leaders, parliamentarians, human rights defenders and activists, as well as restrictions on gatherings, peaceful protests and rallies. In a report released yesterday, the United Nations said since January 2022, at least 26 such cases have been brought to the attention of the United Nations, with information received indicating that in some cases, arrests and intimidation stemmed merely from expressing critical views of the Hakainde Hichilema government. According to the United Nations, the government's hostility has not only been limited to opposition figures, but extends to journalists. Since December 2021, at least 16 incidents against journalists or media outlets were recorded.
Now, as expected, the chief government spokesperson, who is also Minister of Information and Media, Honorable Cornelius Mwetwa, gave government's position on the matter and declined or denied the allegations that Zambia had been found guilty of abuse of human rights.
I wish the nation further to know that the final report of the Human Rights Rapporteur, which we have received as government, does not contain the allegations or alleged violations or findings as contained and portrayed in the aforesaid newspaper article. The role of the Human Rights Council, therefore, is not and has never been to indict countries for human rights violations, that is to say, to find them guilty or not, but rather to provide a platform for self-assessment. The report that we as government have received acknowledges that the Special Rapporteur is the first special procedure mandate holder to visit in the last 8 years, and the first ever with a civil and political rights mandate to do so. Zambia has availed recommendations on how to enhance freedom of expression and opinion, the exact mandate for which the Human Rights Special Rapporteur who visited this country was mandated to come and investigate or hear matters surrounding or pertaining the same. Zambia will, therefore, be reacting to the report that has been availed to government by way of a statement tomorrow, Wednesday, 18th June 2025, in Geneva before the Human Rights Council, wherein as a country we are being represented by a high-powered government delegation led by the Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Justice, P.S. Mwenya Walia.
But it did not end there. The spokesperson for the party, Max Muwe, also gave a position on behalf of the UPND as a party regarding the report for the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights.
This particular report is lopsided, lacks merit, it's misdirected at law, and is a sign of lack of seriousness from the people that authored it. Because we know that the UN does not unilaterally mostly author those statements. They would engage people. Some of us have lecturing backgrounds of research, and we do know that what they conduct is not a research because it is normally targeted. They depend on reports, so people giving reports, either true or false, then they'll publish. I think that should be made very clear. True or false, they will do what? They will publish. Now, why we do not agree with the report, from a political standpoint ourselves, is that, number one, where the reporter says that they believe people should not be arrested for sedition, cyber crime, hate speech, is total blackmail. Because even the reporter herself, where she comes from, there is a law on sedition. Go online, you'll find it. They have cyber laws. Actually, they enacted them earlier than us. And it is an embarrassment to the authors of the report because the UN, United Nations, is the one that convened a convention under trade and commerce to pass a law on cyber security. I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from. So we cannot have a report which assaults the very institution that passed the convention. Basically, convention is international law. I have not seen one country that has no law on sedition. Just 5 months ago, a man was sentenced to 5 years in prison in USA for sedition. Sedition is actually close to treason.
Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy with the way the Honorable Minister of Information and Media, Honorable Cornelius Metwa, came out on behalf of government regarding the stance that they took on the report, saying that it was not in the position of UN to find guilty or not guilty the nation on the abuse of human rights. However, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights only gave their findings. But I'm just concerned with the way the party reacted to this report, calling it these names.
This particular report is lopsided, lacks merit, it's misdirected at law, and is a sign of lack of seriousness.
I don't think is the right way or the correct way to go about things. I know most governments in power always want to hear the good things. Okay? We're never used to hear the critical voices. We are never used to, hear or listen to the concerns of the people. But it is just important sometimes to pay an ear to the people. If UN was really an organization that you described as you did, Mr. Simue, in this video, I don't think your government or the government could have allowed them to even, go ahead with this research. I don't think so. As Zambia, we are part and parcel of the United Nations. And in as much as we may not be happy with these findings, maybe because of our current position, it is important to just understand the context from which this has been spoken and look around and see if indeed these allegations are true or false. If we feel they do not reflect the truth that is on the ground, why not take our own research? I don't think it is the first time we have heard people complaining that there's some form of abuse when it comes to human rights in Zambia. Even before the special rapporteur from the United Nations came, there were these concerns and allegations. And now this report has been given. We still want to treat it as just one of those reports, maybe, created or authored by our political opponents. I don't think that is the way to go. And this is my own opinion. Sometimes we must be used to positive criticism and take it to introspect ourselves and see where have we gone wrong, what can we do better. We cannot always wish to just hear praises about us, and especially that this is a report under the UN, which you people obviously facilitated for. Okay, you welcomed this person and they went round to just rubbish it as a misguided, miswati, AI. I'm sorry, but I have to express my opinion. I think we need to be more careful. Let us be tolerant to people's opinion and organizational opinions, and let us be willing to learn when people tell us where we might be going wrong. Because I think what I've seen is when politicians are in positions of authority, we just want to look at the good side of things, and we just want to paint this picture that everything we are doing is okay. But the recipients of our actions, the recipients of our policies, the recipients of everything that we do are the ones to tell us, apa maenda bad. And let's be willing to learn. Not always just the rubbishing things. Isn't it of concern that we have people in the country that are raising alarm on all these seditious charges, cybercrime, the defamation, and the abuse of human rights? And now we have the UN rapporteur who looks at the affairs of human rights among United Nations, giving the same opinion, and we still feel they are lying. Only what we think or we feel we are doing is correct. The rest doesn't matter. It's a chap vanity as a political party. The opinions of others, the reports of others on how we are doing it, they are wrong. So ever you in the wrong. Now America the other time, now very wrong. Anyway, ahula mabi. Thank you very much.